Today's message is straightforward. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, is waging a systematic campaign to bend every faith in China to party rule. CCP authorities aim for the complete subordination of religious belief to state ideology. Re-engineering doctrine, leadership, education, architecture, and even online worship. The CCP is not content to police behavior. It wants to control the conscience and intrude on the most powerful and personal relationship there is, the one individuals have with God. The title of this hearing asks, why does religious freedom in China matter to the United States? We certainly want to hear our witnesses answer this question. And we have a very distinguished panel here. But let me offer one reason why this hearing matters by reading part of a sermon by detained pastor Wang Yi, who met with President George W. Bush in the Oval Office in 2006 and was just awarded one of NED's highest prizes. In one of his last sermons, before being detained, Pastor Yi said, quote, "The rulers of this country are waging a war in the Uyghur region, in Tibet, in Shanghai, in Beijing. And the rulers who are waging this war have chosen for themselves an enemy that can never be imprisoned, an enemy that can never be destroyed, an enemy that can never be controlled or subdued, namely the soul of human beings." Pastor Wei Yang may now be in prison, but he and millions of others like him are not subdued. That is why this hearing matters, not just for one community or one country or one faith, but for the defense of human dignity and conscience everywhere. The CCP wants believers in China to feel isolated and forgotten. Our responsibility is to show them and to show Beijing that they are neither. There are currently 1,647 documented religious cases in the CECC's political prisoner database, though that number may be 10 times higher when we consider all those detained in the Uyghur region. At least a dozen bishops and priests from my own Catholic Church and Catholic faith are detained. We have documented imprisonment, torture, and worse for such simple acts as owning a prayer book, growing a beard, or gathering for worship. My mother was very devout Catholic, and very early on in the 1980s, it's a long story, but she went to the Soviet Union on a trip, and my courageous mom brought a bunch of Bibles to hand out to the long-suffering people of Russia. Courageous. My mom's no longer with me today, but that was one of the stories I told at her eulogy. Courageous Catholic bringing the faith to starving Russians who longed for the faith and couldn't get it. And she brought them small Bibles. Freedom of religion is under assault worldwide. Witness what is happening in Nigeria. But nowhere is the scale of the threat greater than in China. There are an estimated 500 million in China whose faith traditions face some form of restriction or control. Think about that number, 500 million. And the CCP's grip on religion does not end at its borders. Through transnational repression, it harasses exiled believers, infiltrates religious communities abroad, and intimidates diaspora groups to remain silent. Some of our witnesses have personal experience with intimidation or transnational repression right here in America. Since Xi Jinping came to power, he has pushed an aggressive agenda to roll back what little space for independent religion once existed and to assert CCP dominance over all aspects of religious life. Christian pastors are prosecuted for fraud, for accepting charity. Uyghur Muslims are punished for reading the Quran at home. Tibetan Buddhists are targeted for honoring the Dalai Lama. Falun Gong practitioners are tortured for peaceful meditation the party cannot control. Across China, the party has closed churches, imprisoned pastors and priests, and ordered the removal of Islamic and Tibetan Buddhist symbols from buildings. We're here today because the right to believe, according to one's own conscience, is not a privilege government may grant or withhold. It is a universal human right, central to human dignity and human flourishing. We now know that religious freedom is a critical element in societies that are stable and prosperous. Our own history, from the earliest colonies to the First Amendment, reflects a simple truth. Societies are freer, fairer, and more stable when people are free to worship, to practice their faith, and to live, speak, and act according to their beliefs. The CCP fears the power of faith because it is a source of values and moral authority it cannot control. That is why it demands that crosses come down and portraits of Xi Jinping go up. It is why Catholic priests must preach party slogans alongside sacred texts. It is why so many religious leaders and religious believers are jailed. To the CCP, faith is not just a challenge, it is an existential threat to its grip on power and why it must be controlled or destroyed. These brave witnesses at our hearing today send a message to China that the U.S. Congress takes note. We are watching. The soul of these human beings will not be subdued. And I want to next turn to my Chairman Smith, for his opening statement, and then I will also ask Senator Merkley, Representative McGovern to make a statement if they so choose. Gentlemen, thank you. And again, to our courageous witnesses, thank you very much.